2025 way too early NFL tiers. Bottom of the tiers. Mock draft season. It's obvious. I mean, it's just to hit jackpot in the draft. That's all it is. That's what you're open for. Are they even trying tier? Here's the thing. Feels like these three teams are just kind of satisfied where they are. Like, we're gonna be, barring catastrophic injury, we're gonna be in the mix. We're gonna be fine. Maybe we'll win a playoff game. I know the Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in a couple decades, but maybe we will. But no shot at all, actually, of winning a championship, but that's fine. Want to believe in the quarterback, the Prince, Penix, Drake May, and Bryce Young. Like, I understand it's a 53-man roster, there's coaching changes with a couple of these teams. I get all of that. But if you're a fan of any of these four teams, your offseason is about how do we support the quarterback? Is this quarterback who we think he's going to be?
The guy's Pro Bowler. I don't know if that's fair. Want to believe in the quarterback. The guy's in the Pro Bowl.
You don't believe in Pro Bowl? You don't believe in Lamar Jackson?
I got to tell you.
Guy's in the Pro Bowl. What are you talking about?
Michael Penix, who started 2 games, I feel like we're a couple people bowing out from him being a Pro Bowler too.
We absolutely
At this point, there's
Well, Mike Evans was a Pro Bowl reserve. Do we not believe it that Mike Evans is a good wide receiver?
Next! I mean, maybe. So you can see a path here for all 4 of these teams. The Seahawks path simple. They won 10 games last year. First year with a new head coach. If Geno can continue at the level that he's been at, but the defense gets better in year 2 under Mike McDonald, you see what they can do. For the Bears, it's the path I thought there was, and I think a lot of people thought I was picking them for the playoffs a year ago, but now with Ben Johnson. The Niners, the injury stuff levels out. And the Jets, it's Aaron. Listen,
You're warming up to the Jets.
100%. 100%. Last year, I didn't like the Jets because I didn't believe in the coach or the quarterback. They already changed the coach. They might be changing the quarterback. Next, further away than they think. So these were the 3 AFC wildcard teams.
Good.
Problem is this. They just got no shot at making the Super Bowl. We were talking about, is Josh Allen ever going to make one? Well, what about Lamar? Is Burrow ever going to make another one? What about these guys? We're like, Mahomes is blocking those people. Those guys got to get through the other guys to get to the guy just to have a chance to play the real guy. So they're in trouble. Need a big splash. All these teams are good. I don't think any of them are good enough. So whether that big splash means big free agency signing or just dominate the draft, I do believe in the general core of all these teams. I believe in the quarterback of 3 of them. The reason I say 3 is I'm not including the Vikings because we don't even know who the quarterback definitively is going to be next year. You like the coach of most of these teams, but it just feels like they need something to get them to that next level. A lot of similarities. Washington is looking at the Texans and the Packers, not as a blueprint, but as a cautionary tale. As far as amazing rookie seasons, amazing, years making the playoffs, all of it, going to be a very trendy pick next year for the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden you win 0 playoff games, you feel like you're, or the Texans, that's unfair, they won a playoff game, I apologize, but they don't really take that next step the way you would hope. So nothing against the Commanders, but whatever season autopsy you do, maybe also do one on the Texans and the Packers and figure out where you think they maybe made some slight missteps, why they didn't move forward from 23 to 24. Losses looking worse. Sorry, Brill. And Wilds, 2 of your guys' teams. Now all of a sudden it looks like these are the 7th and 8th place teams. Because they lost to the team that lost to the team that one of them is going to have then lost to the team. It's one thing to get rolled by the Commanders. It's another thing to then see the Commanders get rolled by the Eagles, especially if the Eagles then get rolled by the Chiefs. It's another thing to get rolled by to get beat by the Bills, and then the Bills get beat by the Chiefs, and then if the Chiefs lose whatever it is, how close were those teams? I guess they were close, but like we've seen before, they lost to a team that then lost to a team. For the record, before we put this up, I got in a screaming match with Marshall, the guy who writes the tier names.
Marshall is so vocal.
Well, he's the writer of the names for this tier name.
Really?
I didn't like it. Already denied one three-peat. Real cute, Marshall. So we don't look at it this way. The Patriots won the 2016 and 2018 Super Bowl. They were in the 2017 Super Bowl. Why didn't they three-peat? Because the damn Philadelphia Eagles and Nick Foles. Now they have now again the world changes. Maybe they don't win it in 2018. I understand. It's also why I thought this was dumb, Marshall. But regardless, and now they have a chance to truly deny a three-peat. This tier name, however, I fully endorsed. Now, 0-8 in Super Bowls. Sorry, Buffalo. It's just true. 0-4 with Jim Kelly. 0-4 in your annual Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. I know it's tough, but 0-8 in Super Bowls. That's a record no one will ever match. And then last but not least, for good or for bad, America's team. Polarized, got a whole conspiracy corner in it. Brew mentioned there's a whole Trump faction, but there's also, by the way, a whole liberal faction.
Okay. We're not getting political here, guys. Save all your political comments for another universe. Do not care. Okay. Let's talk about football. Yeah, I'm a little bummed because when I saw that he did the best quarterbacks for the last 21st century or whatever, which was, kind of interesting, really hard. I think it would have been a little bit more interesting to do like the best teams for the 21st century or since 2000. That would have been kind of cool. And it would have been interesting because actually the best three teams in the NFL, the teams that have made the most Super Bowls in the last 25 years, since 2000 have been the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Eagles, which is pretty cool considering we're seeing obviously now the Eagles and the Chiefs against each other in the Super Bowl. So to me, it would have been kind of more interesting to kind of rank teams in that way. And I'll go through all of this, but the thing that stands out to me is the Ravens and the Lions in terms of losses looking worse. I mean, you're kind of cooking the books here. I mean, listen, the Lions obviously, and I criticized them for how they played in their playoff game. And I said, you can't just blame the turnovers. You can't just blame the defensive injuries because of, the team just was not ready to play. And I pointed all of that stuff out. But at the same time, like, the team did have their injuries. That still can't be denied. They lost to the Commanders, who were an incredibly hot team. And then the Commanders lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are, clearly one of the best teams in the NFL. So it doesn't mean that loss now looks so extra bad. And same thing with the Ravens. Like the Bills in the fourth quarter, they were at least winning for a little bit. And again, Kincaid catches that ball. They're at least in field goal range to tie it, which now could potentially go into overtime, or they score a touchdown and win the game. So again, you're talking about millimeters here, and the Ravens were millimeters away from beating the Bills. And so you're just talking about those three teams pretty much being like nearly identical. Yes, we can put the Chiefs above them, but to act like, the Ravens, they lost to the Bills, and then the Bills lost to the Ravens, like they're so far away. Like that's too much. Because he said this team is looking more like the 7th best team or the 8th best team. And I'm like, that's just not really inherently true. Now, I do think that the Lions are going to take a step back because they lost both their coordinators. That is a big deal that I've been trying to tell Lions fans, like, that is a big deal. That is a big deal. And a lot of them, like, don't want to accept that to be the truth. In terms of the Ravens, for me, the Ravens are kind of a team where it's like you either move forward or you're going backwards. Like, what are you doing to move forwards? What are you doing to get better? Also, how much longer can you rely on a Derrick Henry? Because he is an older running back, and he is a beast and a monster, and I have no idea how that guy is going to age, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. And what will they do to take that next step to make them feel like that they are in more control in the big games? That's what I'm looking for from the Ravens. Now, in terms of the Commanders, the Texans, and the Packers, first off, the Texans dealt with a million injuries. They just did, and their O-line was awful. C.J. Stroud was not going to be able to succeed in that. He just wasn't. And then there was a lot of issues with Bobby Slowick, hence why he got fired. And I want to talk to other people, especially other people who are going to be more familiar with the coaching situation, because I was one of those people that really liked Bobby Slowick. And even in the beginning of the season, I really liked Bobby Slowick. And then I was kind of like, I don't know about really what they're doing here. And one of my takes that I had about the Texans were kind of like, listen, he's a very young coordinator, and a young coordinator can oftentimes, learning how to manage injuries and having other people, big names like Nico Collins and Mixon and whoever going in and out of the lineup, that is a harder task for a young coordinator. Bobby Slowick could maybe be an awesome coordinator, but he needs all the pieces there. He needs all the pieces there, or he needs an O-line. Maybe Bobby Slowick is an awesome coordinator, but he needs an O-line. He does not know how to overcome a poor O-line. He does not know how to make the job easier for C.J. Stroud. So when you're that young of a coordinator, again, like I always say, multiple things can be true. So I'm not automatically just going to say, well, Bobby Slowick's a bad coordinator. It's like, no, at this point in his career and his knowledge and his adaptability, he might just be limited depending on the team around him and the situation. So I just think that there's explanations for why some of these teams came up short. Same thing with the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love was banged up and injured, and then the Packers team as a whole was banged up and injured. And they obviously, from my viewpoint, even looking at that season as a whole, they never really played up to what I thought what they should have done. And again, I still think that there was more like concrete reasons for that. Not to mention, when we look at Jaden Daniels, this was clearly the worst team that the Commanders were going to have. Now you have the continuity with Cliff Kingsbury, who I do think is a great offensive coordinator. We know Dan Quinn is going to be able to get that defensive better. Dan Quinn is a proven defensive head coach and a defensive coordinator. Proven. You give him the pieces. You give him the defensive men. He is going to build a great defense. That can't be argued against. We've seen it for multiple teams as a head coach and as a coordinator. So that, again, these things just take time for a coach to be able to get what they need. So I see no reason why Jaden Daniels will take a step back either. Because again, as long as people are healthy, you're going to give him a better offensive front. You're gonna give him continuity with Cliff Kingsbury. And even in the loss against the Philadelphia Eagles, he was on the road, and I think he played great. Jordan Love, I don't know. He didn't play bad necessarily against the 49ers, but I don't know if you saw that game and you were special. I don't know. It's just different. So I don't think you have to say that there's a lot of similarities, because I think there's actually more differences than people realize. And again, to be fair, I think CJ Stroud is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL, and I think Jordan Love will be a great quarterback in the NFL. I think Jordan Love is the most complicated one because of his style of play. And I think you have to really kind of figure that out, how to maximize that. That I think Matt LaFleur is still trying to figure out, quite frankly. So I just don't think that the Commanders need to think of a cautionary tale necessarily. I just don't see it that way personally. And now in terms of need a big splash, I see the Bucks. I know a lot of Bucks fans think that I hate them, and I don't. I really, really don't. I even defended them many times throughout this season. I think losing your coordinator is going to be a huge loss for Baker Mayfield. There's a reason why they were okay, we're going to pay you a ton of money to keep you. So I, need to make a big splash. I don't know what that offense is necessarily going to look like. And Baker Mayfield, even with a great coordinator, was already loose and fast with the ball, with the turnovers and the interceptions. And so it's that can get a little rocky sooner rather than later. In terms of the Bengals need a big splash, I don't even know what the heck that big splash is. Are they ever going to get a great defense? Are they going to actually take care of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Are they going to get an O-line that can protect Joe Burrow? I just don't know. I have no faith whatsoever in the Bengals. None. Zero. That team would be nothing without Joe Burrow. Nothing. So I don't know. The Rams, I trust that they'll make moves. Sean McVay, absolutely. Matthew Stafford, and they know that the time is running out on that duo together. So I trust them. Minnesota Vikings are a question mark because, right, I don't know what they're going to do from a coach-quarterback situation. Then the Chargers, Broncos, and Steelers, further away than they think. No, I think they have complete realistic expectations of who they are, especially the Chargers and the Broncos. You're talking about now two highly run franchises from a coaching perspective. Sean Payton knows exactly where they are with Bo Nix. Harbaugh knows exactly where he is with Herbert. They know that this is a couple years, that they are building something. Okay, people tried to put these fake narratives on them. Oh, Justin Herbert, he better win. He better get to the AFC Championship game this year, because where are the excuses? The excuses. He's got the coach now. And it's no, this was never about year one. This was always about year 2, year 3. This team was a mess. They got to rebuild it. Same thing with the Broncos with all the dead cap from Russell Wilson. Stop trying to act like if you don't succeed immediately right now, that it's somehow a failure or that it's somehow like stop. They know exactly where they are. They know the path. They know it. It's going to take a minute or two to get there. The Steelers, again, they're in a weird situation because it's like, who's going to be their quarterback? Is it Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, or neither of them? Like, what is the source? So I don't really know how to evaluate the Steelers because I fundamentally do not know who their quarterback is going to be. So, how could I possibly? And again, now we're coming out with some of these other teams. I think the Bears are going to be significantly better. I think Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are going to be great together. And I think Ben Johnson is going to work very closely to build that team, go through the draft free agency, and put Caleb Williams in a great position to succeed. For me, the question mark is how will the defense look now? Will the defense be able to kind of get back on track? Because definitely after they fired Eberflus, it kind of fell apart. And so it's like, will they be able to get that defense back? Jets are also a question mark because, right, I have no idea who the coach is. Or, excuse me, I don't know who the quarterback is. And if they do move on from Aaron Rodgers, then, like, where are they going from that point? I think largely the Seahawks are going to continue to be who they are. They're going to have moments where you're like, wow, the Seahawks team is pretty good. And then you're going to have some other moments where you're kind of going to be like, I don't know. I mean, sure, if they can really elevate that defense to another level, but it's just like, I don't know. I never bought into them too much last year or this past season, so there's still a question mark. I do think Geno Smith is a lot better than people give him credit for, but I just think I think it'll be kind of a lot of the same thing, honestly. I really do, unless there's a way for them to really take a huge step forward defensively where people are saying, this is the second best defense in the NFL, this is the third best defense in the NFL, like one of those types of situations, which is technically possible, but I'm more of kind of a wait and see in that moment. And the 49ers, it's so hard to figure out. They dealt with more injuries than any other team. They obviously fell apart. I do think Brock Purdy is a really good quarterback. I think Shanahan is a great coach. To me, they obviously have to rebuild this team. They have to get healthy. And so to me, it's just so much to be like, what are they doing this offseason? What are they doing in the draft? Like, this team needs to kind of do like a soft rebuild, so to speak. But I trust the 49ers franchise to be able to get it done. They're a highly run franchise. Colin Cowherd always talks about, I picked the best coach and the quarterback. And it's like, yes, pick the best coach, quarterback, and, GM ownership. Like, how are these teams run? And so I'm just going to put faith that they're going to make the correct decisions, even if I don't know exactly what those are. And then again, now we get lower and lower. It's like, Jags, what the heck am I going to do with the Jags, right? Like, I have no idea. The Panthers, I have no idea. I think it's awesome that Bryce Young essentially saved his career. I'm rooting for him. I do think that the Jags can have more success. I think the new coach hire will definitely be interesting. The Jags obviously need a culture rebuild as well. I do think Trevor Lawrence could have a lot of success with a significantly better offensive mind in the room. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is this big bust and will be bad. I really don't. I think at a minimum, Trevor Lawrence's ceiling should be, and again, this is at a minimum, should be like he could have a year like a Sam Darnold did with Kevin O'Connell. I just do. I think he could be significantly more elevated. And if you buy into it, if you look at the advanced analytics of like PFF, they still have Trevor Lawrence ranked significantly higher, like top 5, top 6 technically. But again, those stats would have to be unpacked more. I think Michael Penix will be a great quarterback. I think his lack of mobility kind of showed in those first couple of games, but he theoretically had the best start out of all these quarterbacks. He had the best start out of any of them for the rookie quarterbacks. He was making some really special throws, and he played great, and he got thrown into it. Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, they got to make their mistakes in week 1, 2, 3, 4, and onward, and when there was 0 stakes involved, they threw in Michael Penix and said, go. You got to win games, otherwise we're not getting in the playoffs. And he technically had the best start out of any of those quarterbacks. So, which I think is really impressive. Really, really impressive. But again, he definitely is more immobile than I would have thought. He's definitely closer to a statue quarterback than he is to someone who, again, we're not talking about like hypermobility like a Lamar Jackson, but he's just definitely closer to more of a statue quarterback than even one of these more like average mobile quarterbacks. Like I can't even think of a good example right now. Like I guess maybe like a Sam Darnold-esque type quarterback who, again, is kind of mobile, but like not known for their mobility necessarily, or maybe like a Brock Purdy. And Drake May, I think, Vrabel, Drake May, again, I think they're also similar to the Chargers and the Broncos, that they're starting fresh. They're starting new. They got their quarterback. They got their coach. It's going to take a second. It's going to take a minute. Let's go. And I think a lot of it will depend on, can Drake May take this big step, but also what do they do in free agency and in the draft? Do they actually set Drake May up to be what they want him to be? And then again, these bottom teams, like, what is there to say about the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Titans, the Giants, the Raiders? It's just kind of a mess. I mean, it is. It's just kind of a mess. We've already talked about the Cowboys hire, of Schottenheimer and stuff like that. It seems like culturally also with the Miami Dolphins, it seems like the coach doesn't really work there. They can't really get anything going on. Just look at what, we saw Fangio. Even these guys at the table were like, oh, Fangio's not good. The Miami Dolphins can't get rid of him fast enough. The players are complaining, et cetera, et cetera. And then look what Fangio does in year one with the Philadelphia Eagles. He completely turns that defense around and turns it into the best defense in the NFL. That is a Miami Dolphins problem. That is fundamentally a Miami Dolphins problem. And the fact that the ownership, GM, head coach, whoever couldn't say, no, Fangio is for real. We got to keep him here. He is an awesome defensive mind. Don't let him go to Philly. Don't let him go to Philly. But no, that's not what happened. That's bad. That is bad football. And I'm sure it was probably a little bit of a collaborative decision. I mean, who really knows? But the fact that the players couldn't get on board with it, they reportedly didn't like him. They thought he was like too intense, whatever it is. And then you have the Philadelphia Eagles who love him. Love him. He's moving players in positions that they've never played a day in their life. And now they're becoming, the best in the league at it. And the Philadelphia Eagles are like, yes, hopefully we have this guy for the next 10 years. Hopefully we have him until he retires. That is the mark. The Philadelphia Eagles are a highly run franchise. Like I said earlier, they've been to the third most Super Bowls, top 3 in the last 25 years. A well-run organization. Then you have the Miami Dolphins, who again haven't won a playoff game in like 2 decades or whatever it is. And the Eagles now are going to be going to their second Super Bowl in 3 years. And you had the coach, you had the defensive coordinator that could have made your defense to make it special, to make it legitimately elite. And you said, no. Not only do we not like this coach, what he's doing, but we want him out of here. That's a problem. That is a fundamental problem to the franchise. I don't even know how you could even debate against that. And yeah, I don't know. And again, those top 3 teams, I know I skipped over those teams because it's like, what are we going to say about the Chiefs, Bills, and the Eagles? The Chiefs and the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Like, what are we going to debate about the Eagles and Chiefs? And I know, I'm sure a lot of Eagles fans are going to be like, what about the Bills? How are the Bills above the Eagles? And again, at this point, the Eagles are in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. Like, it's like, it just like doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. It really, really doesn't. Do I think that the Eagles, if the Bills were in the Super Bowl, do I think that the Eagles would and should be favored against the Bills? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the Eagles offense would have tore up that Bills defense. Do I think Josh Allen would give the Eagles defense a run for their money? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it would be more of like, I would have more trust in Fangio's defensive game planning against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills and out coaching the offensive coordinator Brady for the Bills, and same thing with the offense, Kellen Moore out coaching Sean McDermott. But again, when now comparing that to the Kansas City Chiefs, I see it a lot tighter. In fact, I see the major coaching advantage for Andy Reid and Spags over Kellen Moore and Fangio for that matter. Which I'll talk about in other future videos in terms of that more matchup. So, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles just fundamentally have a better team than the Buffalo Bills, and I think that those coaches are more prepared to actually also now outcoach the Buffalo Bills. Even if I do think, and again, this will make Eagles fans upset, but I do think Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. But I think that could only take you so far. But yeah, those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. I actually really went through that, man. I went through this more deeply than I think I've done any other tier system throughout the whole season. But let me know your comments. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.